Scorpio, this week begins with a card that changes the question. The Hanged Man does not ask, "What will happen to me?" It asks, "How do I want to meet what is already taking shape?" Your central thesis is that delay can be useful when it interrupts a strategy that is no longer aligned with the future you actually want. The deeper tension is perspective versus force. That means the most important movement may happen inside a decision, a boundary, a conversation, or a pattern that looks ordinary from the outside. Tarot works best here as a mirror rather than a verdict. Use the card to notice where you are acting from clarity and where you may be confusing persistence with alignment because uncertainty feels intolerable. The verified cosmic weather gives that card a precise context. On August 22nd, the Sun enters Virgo in your 11th house, bringing attention toward friendships, communities, networks, shared goals, and long-range plans. Then on August 25th, Mercury enters Virgo in that same 11th house, adding language, analysis, decisions, and practical thought to the same territory. Those are the only transits we need for this reading. Their usefulness is not that they guarantee an event, it is that they identify a part of life where greater attention may be timely. Virgo asks for detail, usefulness, and discernment. Your card tells you what kind of inner posture to bring to those details. Together, they encourage you to notice what is actually working, what is merely familiar, and what small correction could make a larger difference than another dramatic promise. The reveal is the Hanged Man. Think of it as the spine of the reading rather than a prediction. This card asks you to notice how you are using your attention and power. The tension is perspective versus force, and the shadow is confusing persistence with alignment because uncertainty feels intolerable. You may discover that the same external action can come from two very different internal places. Saying no can be clarity or avoidance. Waiting can be wisdom or fear. Speaking can be honesty or control. The work is not to judge yourself for the shadow. It is to identify it early enough that you still have a choice. The deeper meaning of the Hanged Man for Scorpio is not about performing the obvious keyword of the card. It is about applying its wisdom where your usual strengths can become overextended. This week, perspective versus force may show up in subtle ways, in how long you wait before answering, how quickly you volunteer, what you assume another person means, or what you keep doing because it once worked. The key is to recognize that your first instinct can be intelligent and still incomplete. Give yourself one additional beat before important choices. Ask what the choice is protecting, what it is building, and what cost it creates if repeated for 6 months. That longer horizon turns tarot from a mood into a practical lens. Let's move through the areas of life, because the card becomes clearer when it touches something concrete. Love. In love and close connection, change the question before repeating the same conversation with more intensity. Ask what each person is protecting and what conditions would make change possible. The deeper task is to watch whether you are asking another person to manage an insecurity that really needs a clearer conversation with yourself. Relationships become more honest when expectations are spoken before resentment has to translate them. If you are partnered, focus on the quality of the agreement rather than winning a moment. If you are single, Focus on behavior that is repeatable rather than chemistry that is only intense. The card does not ask you to close your heart. It asks you to keep your standards connected to reality. Work. In work and purpose, treat a stall as information. Examine dependencies, assumptions, group dynamics, and whether the goal still deserves energy before adding more effort. This is a week to value processes that can be repeated. One heroic effort can rescue a deadline, but it rarely creates a sustainable professional life. Ask what the work needs in order to be cleaner, more legible, or more aligned with your actual role. If you are considering a change, look at the structure around the change as carefully as the possibility itself. Competence is not only what you can do under pressure, it is what you can build so that pressure is not always required. Money. With money and resources, do not force a decision just to escape uncertainty. Identify the missing fact and wait for that fact rather than inventing certainty around shared or long-range costs. Try to move one financial choice out of the emotional fog and into a written decision. Numbers can trigger fear, hope, pride, or avoidance, but the number itself is still information. Give yourself enough compassion to look clearly and enough discipline to act on what you see. The goal is not to become rigid. It is to reduce the number of financial decisions that have to be reinvented every time your mood changes. Health and energy. For health and energy, respect recovery and alternative measures of progress. Your body may be asking for a different pace, not a harsher command. Your body does not need to become another arena where you prove discipline or goodness. Treat signals as information. Notice which practices actually restore capacity and which only create the feeling that you are being productive about your well-being. Sustainable care usually looks less dramatic than a reset. It looks like choices you can repeat even when the week becomes inconvenient. There is also a psychological layer worth naming. For Scorpio, the week may expose how quickly you equate familiarity with safety. The Hanged Man interrupts that reflex by asking whether the familiar response still produces the result you want. You do not need to reject your natural style. You need to become more selective about when it is useful. This is where the distinction between perspective versus force becomes practical. The mature choice may feel less dramatic because it does not need to prove anything in the moment. It may simply create less cleanup tomorrow. Pay attention to that. Peace after a decision is useful information. Now let's walk through the week day by day. These are reflection points, not predictions about fixed events. Wednesday. Name the plan you keep trying to rescue and leave it alone for 48 hours. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Thursday. Observe who contributes without being chased in a group or collaboration. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Friday. Ask someone outside the situation for a perspective that does not depend on your preferred outcome. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Saturday. The Sun enters Virgo in your 11th house. Evaluate community and long-range goals by fit, not only ambition. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Sunday. Practice selective absence from one habitual obligation and notice what the space reveals. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Monday. Redefine progress so that learning, waiting, or changing direction can count. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Tuesday. Mercury enters Virgo in your 11th house. Use conversation with friends or collaborators to clarify which goals deserve renewed energy. Do not force a major conclusion from one moment. Use the day to observe the pattern and make the next reasonable choice. Before we close, here are exactly 3 journal prompts for the week. Prompt 1. What am I trying to force because uncertainty feels more threatening than misalignment? Prompt 2. Which future goal still belongs to me when I remove other people's expectations? Prompt 3. What would I see differently if I stopped defending my current position? Your weekly guidance is a concrete assignment, not another idea to admire. Do a Hanged Man inversion session. Choose one stalled goal and write the assumption underneath your current strategy. Then write the opposite assumption and spend 10 minutes exploring what would become possible if the opposite were useful. You do not have to believe it. End by choosing one action you will deliberately not take for 48 hours so that observation can replace force. The purpose is to create evidence. By the end of the week, you should be able to point to one behavior that changed because you understood the card differently. Keep the exercise small enough to finish. A completed experiment teaches you more than an ambitious ritual you abandon halfway through. As you close this reading, remember the central thesis: delay can be useful when it interrupts a strategy that is no longer aligned with the future you actually want. You are not required to know the entire outcome. You are being asked to choose the quality of your participation. Let the Hanged Man become a reminder that symbolic guidance is most useful when it returns you to agency, honesty, and practical action. Your affirmation for the week is, I trust the perspective that appears when I stop forcing the old answer. Carry that with you through August 25th. Subscribe so your next weekly reading is waiting for you. Trust the timing. The stars have spoken.